Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is June 10th, 2023, and I'm your co host, The Fat Wizard, joined today by.
Alamaxia.
And Lobos.
And today we're taking a look at The Lion King on the Genesis. This was released in North America in November of 1994, and it's a little difficult. I gotta say, we just saw in the video I switched to easy mode, and I'm okay with that. How did you two do?
Played it on the normal difficulty, didn't go through any of the options, but this game was brutal.
Yeah, I also did normal, and it's a notoriously difficult platformer from my childhood that it's not one I ever owned, but my buddy had it, and I'd go over to his place, and, we would try and maybe get a couple levels in, but that was it.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised on the difficulty because this is, I think, by the same team that did the Aladdin game.
I believe so, yeah.
In some way, I think it's got the same composer, right? Tommy Tallarico, is that correct?
Oh, is it? Nice.
I don't know. I'm guessing there. But I know many of those people worked on this game. And Aladdin is a lot of fun. It's really great. It's just not very difficult. You can beat that on your first try, kind of in one sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this one they said like, hey, kids are renting our game and beating it.
Yeah.
As that's the all too familiar story with some of these retro games.
Yep.
And
Make them hard so they play it longer.
Exactly. And so the manual claims the only difference between difficulty modes is the amount of lives and continues. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe as you folks, maybe like some of the bosses, you'll see like it's easier for me. But yeah, I would love your input when you see stuff. You're like, oh, actually, this was this guy took 3 hits versus 2 or whatever.
Okay.
I watched a difficult speed run after I beat it, and some of the hyenas were taking 3 hits instead of 2.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think there's that, and at least someone in the chat said there were less heal items. I don't know if that's true, and like less continues and 1-ups, that sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. So we kind of blazed through the first level here. This is the game's kind of structured with Simba being the main protagonist, and you play him through most of the game. And you do like the first part of it is when he's what do they call a lion?
Cub.
It's like a child.
cub.
A cub.
Yeah.
A lion cub.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lion for like the last half of the game. So kind of different skill sets there. But yeah, the first level is just kind of a little introduction, teaching you how to run, jump. It's actually kind of cool. Not too much to it. You see there's some porcupines, and you guys remember how you deal with that situation?
You can roar at the porcupines, or you can bowl yourself into them.
Yeah.
Another really good way to handle them. And
so
got us introduced to bugs, which is kind of like the collectible in this, and they have mechanical changes. Like we saw one that you picked up and gave you more roar power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the roar is on the left, and that looks like it actually will kind of regenerate over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your health is on the right, and you have to use bugs to regenerate the health there.
Yep.
So,
there's also, I don't know if you guys really sought them out, but there was like a bug that was red with yellow spots. That one increases your max health. That one was that one came in clutch when I was trying to get further into these levels. And then there's also like a continue pickup. It looks like a sun and a 1-up as well. And did you find the secret in the first level? Like there's like
I didn't, no.
So there's like a wall that you can roll through, and it like just scrolls to the right. There's an extra continue on that screen, and then you can roll back into the main level and continue it that way.
Oh,
Couple cool rolls.
So we're on this. I want to jump in here real quick because we're gonna get to a funny scene. So this is the second level. There's a couple of sequences where you're riding this ostrich thing, and you have to jump or duck. So you can ride on the ostrich, or as you'll see, that riding on the ostrich is for chumps. I like to ride next to it and actually control it.
What?
Wow.
I have no idea how this happens, but so what happens in the video is it bugged out, and you're supposed to ride on the ostrich, and then the ostrich is like an auto scroller, and all you do is jump. But what I've got going right now is like
Oh my
the ostrich
gosh.
is attached to me, and I'm just running back and forth. And this works until you get to the spot where you have to do a double jump.
Oh no!
I don't think there's a way to like deal with that. So kind of funny there.
Oh no.
That's great.
Oh, and then by the way, you kind of like soft lock. So we're just gonna sit here for it doesn't go back. So I had to actually reset the game.
That's
And you'll
amazing.
see it go to the
Nice find.
But it kind of makes me wonder if you can if there's like some manipulation there that's worth doing some sort of speed run tactics or whatever. So, anyway, do you guys want to talk about the level? I would love for some input on like the visuals, because I think the visuals are quite striking in this game. They're really great.
Yeah.
The
I think
visuals and the music.
Yeah, the art's all fantastic. It's very reminiscent of the movie, and it came out, and I think it was very popular for that. So people got it, but then it was super difficult. And this second level in particular, it's like sunset time, so there's lots of reds and oranges in the background. And then this is a notorious level. This is like what I think of when I think of The Lion King. Like when you think of Battletoads and you think of Turbo Tunnel or something, like this level is... It kind of tutorials you through like 2 sections for starters, where you can get bumped by a rhino, and then a monkey will catch you, and he'll throw you to another monkey, and this whole sequence of monkeys, and there's blue and pink monkeys. The blue ones are static, but then the pink ones you can roar at, and they'll swap directions, and they'll throw you differently depending on how you roared. And the first section is pretty simple, kind of shows you how it works. There's a little platforming, and then there's that ostrich section we were talking about. And then the latter half of the level, it's like another ostrich part, and it's more difficult. They don't actually show you the arrows. You have to pay attention to the visuals. And then there's this kind of puzzly monkey part that I remember just spending forever on as a kid. Like, how do I get to the end? And once you know the path, what exactly to do, you just have to swap the monkeys around the right way, and they'll toss you to the end.
Yeah, it's pretty much just make all the pink monkeys face the other direction, and then go through the whole sequence, and you're good to go. But it's just one of those where you can't really tell where the monkeys are going to throw you.
Yeah.
It's just like you run into a monkey. I actually didn't know what I was supposed to do here. I had to look up in the manual. It's like, hey, if you roar next to some of the monkeys, they'll flip. I'm like, oh, okay. And there's a couple of situations I had to look up in the manual.
Oh, cool.
For what I'm actually supposed to do.
Now, speaking of things that you have to do, Simba's roar, did either of you actually use that? Aside from right here.
I used it a couple times to flip over the porcupines. That was about it.
Yeah, I tried to use it on porcupines, but I don't know if you have to be on, like...
there was something close.
Yeah, maybe you have to be really close.
Yeah.
It didn't work, so I didn't try that. So I mostly stuck to rolling for them. But yeah, outside of that, yeah, I don't think there were like any other roar times. Maybe I'll remember some, but yeah.
Now we're on the level 3, which is the elephant graveyard, and kind of going back to the art style here. I want to just kind of point out the use of the multiple parallax layers here. And this is one of the this is a lot of levels highlight that quite well, but this one does a really great job in just showing the different layers of the environment. So I love that.
And that's also just a shout out to Disney in general, because they were really the pioneers of doing that with animation, and it's really cool to see it come through in such a beautiful way in a video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then another call back to the bugs. We just picked up a bug that maybe it was a stink bug or something, where eating it actually, I think it reduced my max life. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I remember one in this level that just like took me to half health, but I didn't think it reduced my max life. But
maybe it just reduces your health.
Yeah.
Some of the things like later on you'll see Black Widow spiders.
Oh, yeah.
I think those hurt you. I ate what looked like a stink bug. I think those hurt you. So not all the collectibles in this game are good.
Yeah, on normal difficulty, the Black Widows one-shot you. I don't know if that was the case on easy.
Okay, so yeah, that's a difference because I think it only took away maybe a third of my life or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and also difference between normal and easy that I'm already seeing is all of these enemies took 2 hits. So like the vultures,
really? Okay.
the hyenas, they
yeah.
took 2 hits.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if the timing on the spouts that come later is different.
Yeah, so that was actually pretty tight for me.
Okay.
Like, so the way it works is there's going to have some spouts, and you have to quickly ledge climb up a bunch of different ledges, and then there's a little bonus area if you are quick enough. I don't know if you guys got up to that bonus area and checked it out, though.
I got up, but I didn't get out.
It's really tight. I managed to do it once.
Oh, nice.
This isn't worth possible deaths here. So so here we're coming up on these little spouts there. And we just hit a checkpoint, by the way. There are these little Simba-looking icons in the world that when you touch, that activates a checkpoint. Most levels have, call it like between 2 and 3 checkpoints. And of course, if you have lives remaining, you die, you'll respawn at that checkpoint. But if you lose your lives, you have to use a continue, and the continue will bring you back to the start of the level. And as the Lobos mentioned before, you can collect additional continues, additional 1-ups.
Yeah, I don't think that 1-up was there on normal.
Okay.
Yeah, because I would have tried to get it, and I don't remember getting that. There is a continue right there underneath.
There's a continue down here in the elephant
I would always
graveyard.
Oh, that 1-up too. I don't think was there.
I couldn't figure out how to get this. So
oh no, it is there. It is there.
So I remember in Aladdin they had these awnings that you could jump on. So here there's a piece of stretch cloth which acts as almost like a little mini trampoline, but it doesn't appear to make you go any higher. And also, I don't know if you guys saw this, but
you had to hit jump whenever you got on it. I don't
know.
It launched me. It launched me.
Huh.
And if you go back down, well, like what just happened there, if you go back down too quickly, that it breaks through.
Yeah.
Oh, so I thought that was a limit where it's like, hey, you can only use this 10 times. If you haven't figured it out by then, it breaks. So okay, that makes sense. Now, if you guys remember the movie, Simba has an arch enemy, which is these hyenas. They're always a little goofy, though. Well, at least one of them is a little goofy. And going through the elephant graveyard is about avoiding and killing these hyenas. And I love the personality when you kill them. Their tongues just kind of stick out. They fall over and their tongues stick out. So that's kind of
and they
saluting
salute.
like, I'm going down.
They salute, yep. All right, now what's this character's name?
Pumbaa. The one you're
Pumbaa.
controlling.
Timon and Pumbaa.
Timon and Pumbaa.
What was your favorite thing about Pumbaa? I'll tell you what my favorite thing.
Well,
I want to hear what you guys.
I'll say the thing that I noticed the most was like, whenever you would finish these mini game levels where you're trying to catch dropping bugs, it would always like freeze frame on him, and a lot of times it would freeze frame and his mouth is open and there's like bug guts just like straight, and I was like, good gracious, that is like, man, that's visceral to see. That was my favorite thing.
So what I liked about him is any button you push made him burp. So,
oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't try that.
If you hit like one of the face buttons, he just goes like bleh. So
that's awesome.
I remember him being kind of like a gross guy. Like kind of lovably gross.
Yeah,
a glutton for food.
It was 90s gross.
Yeah.
It was about the farts and the burps.
Yeah.
And in the movie they made a big deal out of that too.
So we're on to the next level. This is level 4. Of course, there's some little bonus stages in between the levels. This one's called the Stampede. This is a very different level than everything else in the game. And Alamaxia, I'm curious, how did you do on this level? Because I certainly had a little bit of problems.
There were some problems trying to figure out the right timing whenever the wildebeest were, getting right up on you. Mm-hmm. And the last sequence that were coming up on here, where you just have rapid fire rocks that you have to jump over, it kind of reminded me of that Battletoads level.
Yeah. Turbo Tunnel. So it's kind of like a Crash Bandicoot style. You're running towards the camera and things are running behind you. And I think that the way it works is there's 5 lanes.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell what some of the lanes are. Like, for instance, there's a far left lane and a far right lane, but they run sort of angles.
Yeah.
So they start they all kind of start near the center of the screen, and then they run out in a fan, kind of outwards. And so it's hard to tell, like, okay, is he going to fan out to the far right, or is he fanning out to like 2 lanes from the right? So I had a bunch of challenges there. But,
I watched the speed run, and there's like one particular spot on the left where you'll get hit, but not enough that you'll actually die if you just stay there the whole time.
Nice.
So the speedrun just sits there the whole time.
That's cool. Yeah, and then like Alamaxia said, there's rocks that will sometimes they'll appear as question marks also, so that means it's like, hey, coming from either left or the right screen. So that's one of those that you almost have to learn. You can certainly be very, very quick, but it's easier to just learn the patterns and then dodge them.
Oh, so you found a roll spot. I didn't actually find that roll spot.
Yeah. So what level do you want to describe this level and talk about the complications here, Lobos?
Was this Simba's Exile? I think Simba's Exile.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, you found another roll spot. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
they're all over the place.
Woo!
Yeah, this
gamer over here.
This level from the get-go, there are small kind of boulders, rocks dropping. They're based on like where you are on the screen, but you're usually moving around, so they'll kind of lag behind as long as you're still moving. But
it's difficult though if you're trying to climb up something.
Yeah,
I almost always got hit.
If you're going vertically, they're probably gonna smack you, and that can mess you up. So I ended up just every time I did this stage, I just started like speed strats, just going as fast as I can,
sure.
no stopping, and then it kind of became not a worry. There's like 2 sections where it's like Indiana Jones style boulders, and I saw that you actually jumped over one. That's cool. I just outran them the whole time. I just always ran.
Oh,
to the
I didn't know you could run past it. Okay.
Yeah, because the first one has like a porcupine midway, and you can roll it and then keep going. Yeah, the roar here is much better for those porcupines.
I wonder if that's the easy mode that's making them all flip over.
Oh, I don't know.
Because for me, I had to be like right up on
close.
them, and I got
well,
one.
I think
at
it
a time.
might also have to do with the roar meter on the left. That might actually.
If it gets stronger. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I will mention, we haven't even talked about it yet, but the trickiest thing for me in this game was grabbing the platforms that you swing from, because the hitbox was
it's so hard.
It's like it's not centered, and in the second level we didn't talk about, you swing from these rhinos' tails, and where the hitbox is I don't even know. I couldn't guess. So at some point you just have to kind of like go with the same timing, and that'll make sure that it all works out in the same. That was how I approached it anyways.
There's some of them that I found that the right way to do it was to make your character jump backwards.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. Because
I think there's a couple in this level that
you have like a grapple,
to.
And you can move, kind of swing pitfall style from the left to the right. If you jump in the direction you're facing, you have a full flip over, and then if you jump backwards, you do like a half flip. So you travel half as far. So yeah, sometimes that will help nail those very precise angles there. Now we're in the next level, Hakuna Matata.
What a wonderful phrase.
This is not a wonderful level though. It seems kind of charming. Like you're in here, you look and you see these mountains, kind of like frost-covered mountains. You got this glade of waterfalls, and it looks really gorgeous. And there's a little bit of platforming, but the stakes aren't too high, so it's not too bad, right?
Till the end.
It's gonna get bad. It's gonna get real bad. It's gonna get like an hour of making no progress bad for me. Alamaxia, because I saw Lobos do this, and I know that you had a little strategy here, but Alamaxia, I want to hear what you thought about this
falling
Super
logs?
Mario 2 style puzzle thing.
Oh, I didn't spend too long on this. I found that there were some logs that were timed just right that you could just jump straight up, and you'd
just
like right there, like you just did that one. Yep. But it was very slow going. It was about a 5-minute climb, I feel like, to get up to the top. There's like a little relief area off to the left in one spot where you can just like set the controller down, wipe the sweat off your hands, and then go back at it. But
this is one of those that you will frequently lose. Like you'll make like 3 or 4 successful jumps, and lost ground on that because some of them are moving downwards so quickly. Yeah, definitely can be very infuriating because I'm looking at it quickly. It looks like there's 7 rows, and each of the rows falls at different rates, and they spawn at different rates. So it's like you got to figure out how to jump between them to actually get up to the top of the waterfall.
I like how you looked at that bug to the left and you're like, nah, not worth
it. Not worth it.
That actually lets you get back. I was like, I'm gonna go for it, like the mini game.
Oh, really?
Because that's the one that you get for the extra stage. And so I was like, I'll go for it, and I grabbed it. But then you're able to jump back. I think you can just walk under the black widows and then jump back onto the log that you get up to.
Very cool.
All right, so now we're facing a boss. It's a gorilla. I don't remember this from the movie. Is this guy from the movie? And
Not at all.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. All right. Well, Lobos, I saw that you had the strats here. Do you want to talk about how this boss works and maybe how you fought him?
Yeah. So he's a gorilla, and he'll throw coconuts at you. I think they're coconuts, anyways. And at first he throws 1, and then he throws 2, and then he'll slam the ground. And as he's about to slam the ground, you can jump on him and hurt him. If you try and jump sooner, he has this backhand. He'll just slap you real quick.
A very long range.
Yeah, it's quite a range.
He'll clock you if you get even remotely close.
Yeah, he'll keep you away. And he keeps jumping to new spots, and you'll climb up, and he'll start to add more throws. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the last one's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to just keep jumping over those coconuts in succession. It's kind of a typical mini boss from these older platformer games like this.
Yeah, where it kind of just escalates.
Yeah. But
it's the same thing, but just escalates.
Yeah, there's interesting though, if you watch the speed run, as he's arriving in his new positions, you can immediately damage him. And so he never throws like any coconuts in the speedrun. You just bop, then just go to the next spot, bop. And then at the
that's how I thought you had to do it. I did not know. I didn't realize you could wait for him to do like the ground slam and then attack. I was basically damage boosting and I was bouncing off coconuts and hitting them and getting slapped halfway across the level.
No.
It was great.
Nice.
Well, we are now adult Simba. So this one's called Simba's Destiny. And you have a couple new moves available to you. Mm-hmm. The only one I really know is, there's like a swipe, and then there's a pounce. And then I think there's also one. I was very unclear on how this worked, but I think if you jump and landed on an enemy, you would maul them or something. Mm-hmm. Did anyone see that?
Yeah.
Does anyone know how that works?
Yeah, I think it's basically that if you had an enemy that was kind of worn down, like a hyena breathing heavily, you could jump on their back, and Simba would take like 5 quick swipes at him.
Sure.
Yeah, but, it would one shot him, and I think there were also some cases where if you jumped on someone, you kind of had to fight them by mashing the attack button, and if you didn't, then kind of nothing would happen. But yeah, especially later on, it helps a lot when you're fighting a ton of hyenas to get the drop on him and get some insta kills.
One thing I'm noticing and I'm just thinking about is most of young Simba's levels are very bright in nature, and if I remember right, all of adult Simba's are very dark. So that's kind of cool. So we're in a nighttime area with these cool blues and dark, I guess dark blues there. But yeah, I think that's right? Because all the levels that I can think of.
There's the lava level, which is
lava level.
I mean, it's not
it's
dark, but it's not
cave,
bright.
It's in a dark cave, right? So yeah,
this is the part
that was a conscious thing.
Yeah, I guess so. It's also the part of the game where he's like, all right, I have to go back to Pride Rock and defeat Scar, who's like taken over my right to the throne as king of the jungle or whatever. And so, it's kind of not as much of a chipper mood. And in the game, they don't include a lot of the, I guess, warning the Lion King spoilers, but they don't include a lot of things like your father's death, and there's no Nala, there's no love interest, and there's none of that. It's just like, you have to go and take what's yours back from Scar.
I think they thematically hit the major beats there, but just not showing them, right? Because we saw the stampede, and that was the cause of the death. The contributing factor of the father's death there.
Yeah. One other move that Simba gets is, and I did it by accident and tried for a long time to do it again, and then I eventually asked my chat, and they looked up the manual, is like this standing up multi-claw. And I think the way that I got to kind of consistently do it was I would hit attack and then jump and then attack.
Yeah.
And like that would most of the time do it.
Isn't that the move you have to do at the end of the
game?
Though?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one's a little tricky. I'm sure we'll talk about that at the last stage. I want to just touch on these monkeys here because one of the complications of this level, there's a lot of platforming, a lot of going back and forth, but there's these monkeys, and I want to know, are the monkeys throwing rocks or poo at you? What would you say?
Yes.
Yes.
See, I thought that was like seeds. I don't know. Like for some reason, I thought seeds because they're just small brown hard objects. But you know what? Poop kind of makes sense. Poop makes sense.
Now, in this level, there's occasionally these leopard dens or are they cheetahs or whatever, where they keep coming out. At least on my difficulty mode, I could just stand in front of them and mash.
Yes.
That worked for you guys as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Worked fine on normal. There's a cool speedrun strat where if you use the grapple where you toss them and you get up against those little spawners and turn around and like grab, it pushes you through and then you can skip those sections. The speedrun's kind of fun to watch. The first half is mostly normal, but then like the latter half gets pretty fun. Oh, yeah, that happened to me too.
Okay. So
there were some environment interactions with your character that just kind of made me go, ugh. And one of them was if you just simply touch one of these boulders, like you touch it with your nose, you die. And then back at level 3, whenever you had to outrun that water, if you get your tail wet, you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
That's true, yeah. So, some of these boulders are hung up on these vines, and then you have to smack the boulder, and that will release it from the vine, and then that will open up the next pathway for you. Sometimes that means it allows you to now step in some thorns that would damage you. Sometimes it opens up other jungle branches or whatever, like clears the branches, so now you can walk through there. But when you got to be careful when you smack one of those boulders. If it even starts falling on you, you're dead. So that one's a little tricky.
Or if you fall on it, instant death.
If you fall on it, also, yep. So I just picked up a blue vial. Do anyone know what that does? Is that the minigame thing, or was
I thought that was roar strength? Maybe not.
Oh, maybe it could be
the big blue one.
It's hard to.
I'm not sure.
To be honest, when I played this game, when I started playing this game, I didn't read the manual or anything, and I was very confused on what the items were and what my health power up. And I was like, what are all these things? And I don't know, just collect them all.
That blue one was more roar power.
More roar power.
Okay.
Max roar capacity. And I was also very confused. And again, I was having a tough time. And then somebody mentioned about the red bug with yellow dots that increases your maximum health. And that was a game changer. Because there's one in the first level, and I kept running past it. And I was like, whatever, I'm not going to get it. And that's what it is. So then I started seeking those out all over the place.
It's one of those things where, and I want to compare this game a lot to Aladdin because there's a lot of similarities. But, Aladdin, you have apples, and apples kind of make sense as like, yes, you should collect these apples. Everyone wants to collect apples and jewels.
An apple a day.
Things, right?
Keep the doctor.
But it's like, here's a bunch of bugs, and some of them kill you when you touch them. Yeah. So. All right, Lobos, be prepared. Why don't you walk us through this level? Because I had difficulties, and I certainly know that you had some difficulties here too.
Yeah, I think this is the hardest level in the game, probably, at least to like first beat, because it has a lot of moments where you have to like learn that you're going to get insta-killed here if you don't do something. And it's an underground cave, very hot cave. There's lava all over the place, tons of hyenas, bats that'll fly at you, and you can swipe them in one hit, but like they're probably going to get a hit on you if you're not ultra careful with them. There are geysers or whatever the equivalent is for lava. They're just spewing out lava, and it kind of slowly moves up, or it moves up quickly and then slowly moves down. You have to time jumps. There's lava, I guess, dripping from the ceiling that will cause a splash that will hurt you.
You know what? I for some reason I thought it was blood.
Oh
just
my
because it looks
gosh.
like little blood drops. But like Zelda 2, remember the blood drops that would fall down?
Yeah.
So that's what it kind of looked like to me. But
I do remember
that
Lion
doesn't make
King being
sense.
quite the gory movie. Blood everywhere.
Blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lengthy level. I may have missed a checkpoint, but if not, then there is no checkpoint for, like, my goodness, a large majority of it. And then that checkpoint is pretty much just for the end, which is kind of a puzzle.
Oh, so yeah, you did miss. Oh, okay, so it might just be on easy mode. There's a checkpoint, but it's coming up
We'll
at
see.
the end of this before you drop down. There's 2 paths you can go down, and one has a checkpoint.
Oh, that would be it. I don't think I
Yeah,
went down the
yeah.
first path.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, that makes things a bit easier. So I made things harder on myself.
It's
but
still very still this level's still very challenging.
Yeah.
This one probably took me the majority of my time playing the game to complete.
yeah, I think so too.
And again, because I think normal mode you have 2 lives and 2 continues, right?
I think 3 lives and 1 continue by default.
I don't know how you guys beat this game so quickly. Then that's
well,
nuts.
I mean, as you play and you get better and you learn the positions of the 1-ups and stuff, things just get smoother and smoother. And then for me, the time that I beat it, like I got through this level and I think I had not used to continue yet, and I had like 7 lives. And once I beat this the first time, I beat the rest of the game. I also had like 5 continues. But I spent so many continues on the last stage. But yeah. So one of the parts that I kind of got stuck at here, we just did in the video, but there's these geysers and you have to avoid them, and it seems like a dead end. But if you look up, there's these stalactites that are attached to the ceiling, and you can swipe at them and it'll dislodge them, and they'll fall and create a path. Create a hole in the ground, really, that you can jump into and then continue. Which apparently the one on the left had a checkpoint.
Yep,
that's very nice.
We'll see that in a second here, actually. I think
because I did not get that, and then I went in the one on the right, which is fine. It's what you're supposed to do, but you fall down and there's a platform that's on the lava that starts moving. But I missed that platform, so I just instantly fell into the lava.
Oh,
and then
no.
I was like, okay, well, start again. But I had to do the whole stage from the beginnings quite a few times, figuring out all these moments where...
So you kept always going to the right. You never changed and went to the left.
I figured the left was a...
You never thought like, why is there 2 paths here? I should check out the left.
I thought it was a debate. I was like, I'm going to drop down there and die. The one on the right had like a darkness to it that was like, okay, there's wall there. I'm supposed to go there, not the other way. So maybe they should have put like some Simba flags or something that was like, go here. No, I'm just kidding.
This part was infuriating. So once you drop down from that area we were just talking about, where there's a left and right path, there's that rock you ride, which is on lava, and there's a sequence here where you have to jump up over, kill some monsters, and the platform's still moving, and you have to then meet up with it and jump back on it. And if you miss it, that's it. You need to kill yourself. Now, at least they put a 1 up there, so you're like, all right, well, at least I'll get my life back here. But I probably did that about 30, 40 times.
Oh my gosh.
And then we have this Indiana Jones sequence, which was infuriating.
It was like Mega Man 2 when you first do the drop down and like the lasers are coming from the side to the screen like that. Yeah, that's
But my character kept getting stuck, because so what you have to like run to the left and then drop down and then run to the right and then drop down, and there's this boulder that's coming, and if you don't commit to the drop down and you try to just drop down and then quickly move to the opposite direction, your character will do a ledge grab, which means that boulder is rolling right over your face.
Over your fingies in your face, yeah.
Yeah, that was annoying. But yeah, I don't know, Alamaxia, did you have any problems with that part specifically?
Not the rolling boulder.
Oh wow, okay.
This whole riding that little rock in the lava and having the bats attack me, that killed me way more than anything.
Stupid bats.
And then I'm sure we're going to be coming into it here just a moment, is the boss of the level, which is
boss.
which I did not understand how it actually worked until I figured out, oh, that's, the end of the level.
Yeah.
So you have these 4 geysers that are just, it'll shoot, one of them at a time will shoot up in the air, and when they do, a whole bunch of rocks will fall down from the ceiling. The safe spots are standing on the other geysers that aren't shooting. But if you're anywhere in between, or if you have your nose hanging off the edge too far, those rocks are going to hit you.
Yeah.
There's basically no avoiding them otherwise.
Yep. I only figured out what to do because the manual tells you at the end of the level, you need to, I think it says dodge the rocks until the place crumbles or something like that.
Yeah.
It basically tells you just got to dodge. And so that's what we're doing here. It's actually quite a bit easier once you figured out the pattern. There's only 2 of the 4 geysers you need to worry about. And you just alternate between those 2 is what I do.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So after about... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I did it with the leftmost 2 geysers. I'm curious, did they all... Can they all complete them?
I think only the left one, because you can see I'm standing on one and it's not shooting up. So yeah, after like 3 or 4 cycles of all the geysers going up into the air, the piece of the ceiling falls down and caps the geyser, and then you have to stand. I believe you can only stand on the leftmost one, and that will then shoot you up into the air.
Yeah, I remember that part from the movie for sure. Yeah, my favorite part.
Well, we got Simba's return. Who doesn't love a good maze in their game? Who wants to take this one and describe it?
There are little caves everywhere. You start out and you have, 5 options to choose from, and they act kind of like little portals. They'll go in a cave and you'll exit somewhere else in the level. You're not really sure exactly where, but it all interconnects. You can see other caves off to the side. But every time you go through the caves, you have some hyenas to fight. And before you can go into another cave, you have to defeat all the hyenas. So it was kind of an endurance check, just figuring out, where to go. But kind of like the second level, I Can't Wait to Be King. This one just felt like, play through it a couple of times, find the right path, and then it's not that bad.
Yeah, the only difficulties I had were there's a couple areas where there's 3 hyenas on the ground and you have to go on the ground to engage them. And it's really hard to get them to clump because they want to jump over you and then do a pincer attack. So those were the challenging bits I would lose some health on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this was the level that I really utilized the kind of ambush from above where you could insta-kill them because... And it's really weird when you do it. I don't know if it was just my emulator, but their sprite gets like really distorted and it looks creepy. Like pieces of their body separate from each other. It's
oh my.
It's weird. Yeah, but it helped a lot. Like in this case, when I think the idea is that the hyenas are like they're starving. They're like always hungry, and so when they're idle, they're just kind of like panting, like out of energy, and you can.
Oh, I didn't even think that would be a cause. That's a good catch.
I figured because that's kind of what they were in the movie. Like they're always hungry, and this is an interesting situation. But yeah, so for me, I explored every single path except for the correct one, and then forgot about it. And I was like, I remember there was a spot where there's two doorways. But I don't remember where it is. So I had to basically retrace all the steps. And again, I did it this level and on all in one go. So I just had all these lives and I kept spending my lives. And I was like, oh no. But it worked out ultimately. And having to refight these hyenas was...
That's right. Because anytime if you go the wrong direction, the hyenas will spawn. So it's like you can go in and out of the same area and they will respawn. It's kind of a pain. Yeah, so the solution there, you want to go to the first 3. You go to the third one, and that will set you up for a couple of other paths you have to take there. I think there may be like 5 to 6 different doorways you must go in to actually find the end of the level.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
and I think it just ends with like a slightly bigger hyena fight, and then that's it. And that's the end. I don't even remember.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
I think that's supposed to be like you're fighting those 3 main hyenas. I can't remember their names, but there's like the 3 recurring hyenas with personalities and voices in the movie. I think it's meant to be them.
You see how he's distorting there? Did you see that?
Yeah, okay, so
see?
I guess that's not an emulation thing, because I'm playing on original hardware there. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So,
how did this play on the original hardware? Like, did you get any kind of major slowdowns? Because that was something that I experienced with the emulator. Is some of the levels, especially that lava level, was really laggy.
Yeah, in this level, Pride Rock,
with the fire,
lightning struck. Tons of slowdown here. So that was frustrating. Also, one of the things that kind of bugged me about this game is when you start moving, there's some sort of acceleration that must require for you to make jumps.
Oh, right.
So like if you're standing still and then immediately hit like right and jump, your character will basically stand still and jump. So it's not like a Mario where you gotta have that instant acceleration. You have to build up some momentum there. So that one was kind of challenging sometimes for some of these levels. But we are at the very, very last level here, Pride Rock. I'm not sure why there's flames coming from the bottom. Is this thing like on fire?
There's a storm and lightning striking everywhere. And
the savannah is on fire.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So that's why there's just persistent flames going on. So this fight is a little weird. I had to look up exactly what I was supposed to do. Because you can just sit there and smack them over and over and over, and nothing happens. Did you guys figure this out on your own, or did you have to look it up?
I just kept jumping on his back and got the grapple thing to swipe down at him like 5 times.
Yeah,
jumped on his back?
I didn't look anything up. I quote unquote figured it out by myself in the sense that I just like kept beating on him. I did figure out the toss. So, and I, from being familiar with the movie, I was like, okay, he throws him over at the end. So I knew what I had to do, but like, getting him to the point that he would run away, like I just started it's like literally backing up into a corner and spending like 2 minutes wailing on him just to make sure, like, because sometimes I would try some things and he wouldn't run away. And I'm like, it's like Ridley in Super Metroid where there's like a damage threshold at which point he can die or like you progress, but it doesn't necessarily. I don't know. It was just a lot of overkill on my part, just trying to make sure I was doing everything right.
The way it works is so there's 3 stages and every time between the stages, he'll jump and go to the next portion of the area, and then you have to platform to get there. So in the first stage, you swipe him, and then you gotta pause, or else he'll block. You'll see like he kind of puts his paw up. So you swipe him once, pause, swipe him again, and then he does this like little taunt where he almost laughs at you. And then you can do the way I did is I would hit the attack button and then the jump button, so kind of like a roll from attack to jump, and then you do this growl attack. And if he's not laughing when you do this, he'll counter attack and then jump on you and start swiping, mauling you there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I basically rolled my finger because I think the ideal is you want to mash them at the same time. But what would happen so often is my character would just jump up in the air like an idiot. So I was like, all right. Attack, jump, and kind of roll my thumb across there. So anyway, after 2 sequences of that, you go to the next sequence of the level. You got to do that 3 times, and then he goes to the final stage where he's at the very, very top of Pride Rock. And do you guys want to talk a little bit about some of this platforming that we're doing, especially the lightning?
This was interesting. There was definitely a pattern and a puzzle to the lightning. There's a lot of small platforms you have to jump on, and you'll be able to jump to several different ones from one spot. But as you jump, lightning's going to strike some of the platforms around you. And some of the platforms would go out after a little bit, and some of them wouldn't. But I found that going the right pattern on the platforms, you'll avoid all fire. If you there's a couple of them you just have to wait a couple seconds, but then there's some platforms once you hit them, it triggers other things to go out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, you saw some major slowdown there. That it's very frustrating, especially with that momentum you need to actually jump. It's like now your game's moving slow and you need momentum, so it was a little frustrating there. And so we're at the top. Lobos, it sounded like you just kept wailing on this guy.
Yeah, so like I said, when I got here, I think I had 6 or 7 lives and like 5 continues. And it took me until like I game overed like 3 times, and then then I beat him because I didn't know exactly like the proper setup for this, so I just beat him mercilessly for minutes at a time until all he did was this pant animation, and I was like, okay,
once he does once he does a pant, the grab you can actually see will throw him further than it does normally. So then it's just a challenge of making sure you jump over him so that when you throw him, you're throwing him off the cliff.
Right.
Because he wants to be thrown, towards the middle of the cliff, and so you have to kind of manipulate him such that you're throwing him off the cliff.
Yeah, I just had a lot of times where I would try to jump to the other side of him, and then I would fall off the ledge, or I was trying to throw him, and it was.
Got some Metal Gear Solid vibes on this fight.
Yeah.
Sure. Right, and then there we go. We jumped off to the side, threw him off, and then Simba. I actually don't know. Can you throw him to the left because he?
I don't know.
I don't know because
I threw him
he
to
immediately runs to the left to end the scene. So it seems like you have to throw him off to the right, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't think you could just because I know that there's ground
I
down there,
left.
but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you can.
What were you saying, Alamaxia?
I threw him off the left.
Oh, he did. Oh,
he did.
Nice.
So then did he run to the right or did he stay on the left and do his little closing sequence here?
I think he ran a little bit to the right and then immediately back left.
Okay, all right.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
And then there's just, this is your victory celebration. I was because you just kind of sit there and look back and forth. I was expecting them to force you to hit a button and then do like a big roar or something. That would have been cool, but no, you just kind of hang out there.
Yeah,
I think kind of an anticlimactic ending.
I was actually really surprised that there wasn't much to it.
Well,
it's just like, there you go, game over, you win.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't introduce any of the characters, so there wasn't any like interesting thing to return to. So this looking at this as canon, like it's just Simba and his dad does exist, right? He talks to his dad in the vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
he says, what's he say? He says like everything
the light
touches
is our kingdom.
Well, there's that,
Yeah,
but then
that's
also in the level, like the shadowy level with all the panthers or cougars or whatever, like at the end of the level, he shows up and says like, you must take your place in the great circle of life, I think.
Right.
And so then he's like, okay, well, I guess I better go do that. And then, but yeah, you come back and nobody's there. And he's like, well, I earned my life of solitude up on this rock, and it's gonna be so lonely. But no, we know the truth.
Well, that's the Lion King. Kind of a short game there. I was surprised. It makes up for it in this difficulty and replayability, I'd say, in doing the levels and trying to beat them. But a very, very short game once you've figured out the tricks there. So that's it. The Lion King done. And we did get a Patreon supporter this week, Tyler Long. So thank you, Tyler. You saw the Patreon list there. So thank you, everyone. And let's just wrap it up here. I just want to have like a quick little announcement here. I think we've done 55 episodes of the Saturday Morning Gaming Show. We've covered a lot of really great games, and I'm kind of I'm really satisfied with what we've done. And at this point, I've kind of decided that we're going to call it there and say, thank you everyone for making the Saturday Morning Gaming Show an amazing experience. Chatting with people in the Discord, having them join the community, beat games with us from the Hall of Heroes.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun when we first started, and we've been doing this for about 4 years now, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
Been a while, yeah. 4 or
we
5.
met Alamaxia,
Yeah.
who's now a real life friend, which is great. You know, we hang out in person, play games together. So it's been a lot of cool things that came out of this for me. But it's one of those things where I kind of have to move on, and so unfortunately, the Saturday Morning Gaming Show will no longer be in production. But all the videos, we got 55 videos plus, other bonus podcasts for people to, consume at any point in their lives. And I think all of these videos will hold up as people go back to them, because all of these games are classics that we all love and can experience there. So, yeah, that's my little spiel. Did you guys have any closing thoughts here?
I'm gonna miss it. I really am. Doing this podcast is honestly, one of the most anxiety-ridden yet best times of the month for me. It's always this, oh my god, I have to play the game, but I love playing these games, and I love being able to talk about them and discuss them with you two, and being able to share it with everyone that listens. So I'm honestly really bummed that we're ending it, and I really do hope that everyone has enjoyed it. I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a great ride, and there's a lot of games that I played that, were the kind of game that you were like, maybe one day I'll play that. But we actually sat down and played them, and played them in depth all the way through and all this sort of stuff. So thanks, Fat Wiz, for coming up with this idea so many years ago, and just given the opportunity to do that. And I hope that the listeners have enjoyed all the playthroughs as well, because I've certainly had fun.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you all here. So, now any retro games we play will be purely for our own enjoyment. We'll keep the Discord open, come in, we can still talk retro games. We can still hang out, right? So, why don't you stop on in there? All right. Well, sadly, we have reached the end credits of this episode and this podcast series. And so truly wanted to thank everyone for listening to us on your podcast or watching us on YouTube. And if you ever want to reach out, you can always shoot us an email at SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com. Come into the Discord. Let us know what you think, or just maybe you want to chat with some of your friends that are playing the same games, or meet some new friends and play some games and kind of reminisce about them in the Discord. And so we have just one special shout out again to TechnoAxe for much of the music on this episode.
And the entire series. TechnoAxe, thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Alamaxia.
I'm Lobos.
And I'm the Fat Wizard. Thank you, everyone, for making this such an incredible part of our lives.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Record button. Record button.
Ready to go?
Ready.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 0 of the Saturday Morning Gaming Show.
Woo!
It is May 18th, 2019, and I am your co-host, Ryan, joined by
Lobos. Hello, I'm Lobos.
Lobos, who is also our co-host here. So thank you so much for being here with me and embarking on this very exciting endeavor here.
Absolutely, it's I look forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So this episode is really just to explain what Saturday Morning Gaming is, so listeners have an understanding of what sort of content they will hear over the next coming episodes. So let's talk about what Saturday Morning Gaming is. And I think to understand the sort of driving thoughts here, I want to explain how I came to this conclusion about having this podcast. It started when I had picked up The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. I hadn't played that as a kid, so I downloaded it on the virtual console a number of years back. And as I was playing it, I was like, man, this makes me feel like it's Saturday morning and I'm 10 years old and I'm a kid that's just woken up and I had my cereal.
Yeah, that was my Saturday morning. So.
Yeah. And just like the joy and excitement of experiencing these really high quality games and sort of that mystery and the discovery. And what was really interesting is that I got all that like 15, 20 years after the game was already out. And so I was thinking like, man, I wonder if there's an opportunity here to share my experiences with other people, right? And to bring people along with this journey and to make this kind of almost consider it like a book club, right? So we say, hey, we're gonna choose a game every other week, you know, and basically say, hey, if you want to join us on this journey, play through the game and let's come back and talk about it. And maybe you don't want to go through the game. Maybe you just want to hear about it and relive memories. And one of the reasons I really wanted to make this a podcast is because I was actually looking for something like this, right? Where it's like sometimes you have this nostalgia for a game and then you go back and you play it and it's like, oh, it's kind of a pain and, you know, it takes 10 hours or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, I wish I could relive this sequence in like an hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, and what I was thinking is like, well, what if we take, you know, me and Lobos playing this game and we share our experiences over an hour and the viewer, the listener can just kind of like take that in and be like, oh man, yeah, I remember that. That was really great.
Those are the best moments.
They are, yeah. And so it took me a while to really think about how do we form this podcast? How do we form this show? And I finally, you know, thought all the pieces, like they all clicked. And so I messaged Lobos like on a Friday and I was like, hey, Lobos, I have a proposition for you. Are you busy? And she's like, nope, come on over. And so, you know, I actually took a little bit of a walk outside his house because he wasn't quite ready for me. He was still streaming. And so I was just trying to formulate like a pitch.
Streamers.
Absolutely. Always working. So I really wanted like a solid pitch here because I was excited about it. And Lobos, you had expressed some interest in doing some podcasts. And I was like, really what this needs is someone that I have a good, you know, good rapport with. Someone that we can talk very easily.
That's one of those money words.
Yeah.
Rapport.
Well, I actually have like 10 words I've written down here. I'm trying to inject them. So yeah, good, rapport was one. I can check that off.
Space them out though. You don't want to get rid of all of them right at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so it was really important for me to convince Lobos to do this because I was thinking about, you know, potential co-hosts. And I was like, you know, I'm not really sure who has a love for retro games like I do. Who has such the ability to just kind of talk endlessly. So Lobos, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear, you know, I came in here and I gave you this pitch. I talked for probably 10 minutes. I didn't let you say a word. I wanted to get a sense kind of like when you heard all that, what sort of things were going through your mind?
I mean, generally when you talk about video games in almost any capacity, I'm pretty much always on board. So just listening to you talking about what you want to do and how you wanted to approach it, and into the depth that you wanted to plumb these, memorable.
Memorable. Yeah, that's
actually
you got number 2 on my list there. Yes. It's memorable. Good job.
Plumb these memorable games. Yeah, I mean, I was super on board. I already wanted to do some podcast stuff, but it's the kind of thing where I didn't 100% have a direction that I wanted to go, right? And so when you came to me with this idea, I was like, oh, sweet. There's the direction.
Perfect.
And I've got a partner in crime that I can tackle this with.
Absolutely. And I can think of no one better. And you mentioned direction, and I want to use that to segue into my next point, because there are... That's number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
We got it. We're making this. So, yeah, direction. There are other retro podcasts out there, and I did a little bit of searching, and ultimately what I found is they didn't quite hit what I wanted. I wanted the podcast to be very much about the game itself and not so much about the people, which is sort of weird because, when you do like streaming and stuff, it's very much about the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you can still get the personality through, how our views and exposure to the game and what type of stuff we're talking about. But I didn't want to spend the first 15 minutes talking about, your trip to Colorado and how your car broke down, right? Because especially if I'm someone new to the podcast, I don't know you, and thus it's not the type of content I'm looking for.
Sure.
So as much as possible, this is probably the only time we'll kind of talk about non-game related stuff. As much as possible, we want the hour to be describing our experiences from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. And there, maybe some minimal tangents there. What do you think about that, Lobos?
I think it's great. I get an opportunity to revisit or maybe play for the first time some older games, which I've been doing a lot of lately anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, this just kind of gives that even more direction too.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
I think there'll be a lot of nostalgic titles that will come out of this that people would appreciate seeing these playthroughs and discussing these playthroughs again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very, very good points there. So, it's clear that we've been talking about this being a podcast for a while now, and so I want to talk about another avenue that that viewers and listeners may want to engage with our show here. So, note the game or the show itself is called the Saturday Morning Gaming Show, not podcast. The reason why is because we do want to stream this on Lobos's channel. So episode 0, the one you're listening to right now, will not be streamed on the channel, but starting on episode 1, it will be. And the intent is for the, as we're going through the game on our own time, we're recording that, splicing that all together to be a comprehensive, like, here's the start of the game and here's the end of the game in a full hour. And while we're talking, we'll have the game running behind us. It'll be green screen. It's not actually going to be running behind us, but it'll be really cool.
I'll be playing it right now.
Yes,
I'm just speed running it every game under an hour.
And what's great about your experience as a streamer is you could totally stay on point and still talk interesting topics while you're playing that.
Of course. No, we're not going to be playing. We'll just be having footage behind us.
Yeah, and I just felt it was very, very important for people that want to watch the game and the things we're talking about, because, again, as we want to be focused on the game, we want to bring viewers and listeners on the journey from here's the start, you hit the start screen, whatever, all the way to the credits, and talk about our experiences. And we have varied experiences. I haven't played a lot of Super Nintendo games, and so it'd be really great to have that disparity between you and me, where you're very experienced and you played this as a child most likely, and me coming into it and haven't, without that sort of nostalgia immediately attached to it.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the visual portion, because you can describe a game or an experience like so in depth, but without the visual there, like, for example, I don't remember, have you played Final Fantasy VI, which is 3 American?
I've played I think like half of it.
Okay, but you didn't finish it. So if I were to be here and describe in detail the final boss of Final Fantasy VI, those of you who played it, picture it, you know exactly what it is, and you can sit there in awe with me as I describe it. But whoever hasn't seen it or played it or seen it is just kind of imagining it, and it's easy to misimagine stuff or just think up something completely different. So I think that visual part of that will be really key in tying that in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm really excited to be able to share that with people that watch. So, if you're not able to make the shows, which, by the way, let's talk about the times of the shows here. So, being Saturday morning gaming podcasts, we wanted to have this aired on Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Yep, that's right. So, Wednesdays, that seemed like enough of a time for people to get to it eventually on Saturday.
Yeah.
So that, No.
It's Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Central Time. So, and that's the time Lobos is on. So if you're already accustomed to when Lobos starts his streams, just use that as a metric. I think you start streaming at, is it 11 a.m. on a Saturday?
11 a.m., yes, Central Time. So with this, we should be able to have a nice lengthy podcast with a little bit of transition time, and then I come up and stream as usual.
Absolutely. So nothing changes on your streaming schedule except for you get a little bonus time for
right.
some retro gaming there.
And so do the viewers.
Yeah,
bonus
which
time.
is really great. Really great. So let's actually talk about what retro means, because I think for this to really become that sort of Saturday morning gaming podcast type thing, or show rather, we almost need to establish some baseline, I don't want to call them rules, but expectations on the type of games we're going to play. And I guess the way I was thinking about it is like, well, does it make sense to limit your games to a particular console or generation? So let's say retro is anything before the GameCube, right? And so let's envision a time that's 5 years in the future. Maybe PS1 is retro,
right? Yeah, I could see me and you as we get older, becoming old men, just going, man, no, the retro games is the NES. Back in my day, and that's it. Cut the line. But it's true, like as new generations come up, new consoles come up, and what people played as a kid. I mean, so many people played like Ocarina of Time as a kid, and that's N64, and maybe you grew up on, I don't know, something World of Warcraft, and that was retro for you now, even though it still goes. But anyways, so that discussion I think is interesting. And how do you think we're going to define that?
Well, so again, I see this as sort of a guideline. So what I was thinking about is having like a 20-year. Anything that's 20 years or older freely qualifies for a retro game. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be exceptions. There's a game coming out real soon here. We've talked about actually doing for the Saturday morning gaming show, and it is newer. I think it's like 15 or 16 years. But I still think that when that comes out, it'll be very much to the spirit of the show. And so that's why I'm like, hey, let's consider 20 years. So it was 1999.
Yeah.
And then we'll use that as a starting point. And then maybe there's a game from 2005 that we think qualifies for this, but more or less we'll consider it about 20 years. Does that seem reasonable to you?
Yeah, that seems good to me. If I think back to 1999, oh man, I was playing probably StarCraft, maybe like GoldenEye 64,
Half-Life 1.
Half-Life.
1999 was the golden era of video games.
Right before 2000, and then
everything was downhill from there to the turn of the millennium.
Right.
Great. Well, I'm glad that we set up some sort of guidelines there. The next thing is we're talking about guidelines. We'll talk a little bit about the methodology of how we're approaching these games. So I personally will be emulating the majority of these. So I think it's important to say, like, how do we feel about save states? What about hints and walkthroughs? What do you think about that, Lobos?
Well, I think I will probably have, I want to say more time on average to play games like this. I mean, like, I can play it in my free time, but I could also take my work time to invest into these. For me, I always like to try and go original console if I can. And I don't mind using save states, especially if it's something that, like, you want to get through the game quicker and something's difficult. Absolutely. Yeah, you can understand the difficulty of a thing and not necessarily have to put in all the time to clear it without, a save state or something like that. But just for the sake of getting through it so that we have the material to talk about and not spending a ton of time outside to do that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Ultimately, we want to have this show for the viewers every 2 weeks. And so we have to look at what's important. Is the integrity of the game what's really important, or is the fact that we can go through the game and deliver our thoughts on the experience? And I think the latter is true. And to that point, I also agree. I prefer to go through the game naturally. But there's some situations where it just makes sense to do save states. And I think that's going to be a judgment call for, both you and me, Lobos, is, imagine there's a sequence that you can get through 100% of the time without losing any health and without losing any ammo. And then 2 minutes into it, that's where the boss fight is, right?
Right.
And so are we really gaining much by repeating that sequence over and over and over? Or does it make sense to just, all right, I've done that 3 or 4 times. Let's just put a save state at the boss and kind of speed stuff up here.
Right. And, well, I mean, it almost sounds like we're getting to a different discussion here because, I mean, if we're talking about for the podcast, sure, but no.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. And also, again, hints and walkthroughs, as much as possible, I'd like to go through this on my own, but I look at this again, going back to the spirit of what we have here is, as a child, you would have school and you would have kids at school that would play through the games, and they give you tips and tricks, and they would give you Nintendo Power, and I feel like that is like almost justifying the use of an occasional hint or a walkthrough.
Sure, yeah. I mean, especially these days, if I get stuck on something, I'll ask my stream, or I'll look up a walkthrough. Like, some stuff is, you can understand it, but maybe it's not worth the full effort based on how much time you have and how much fun it is for you or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, those experiences, because I think we're very much aligned on that. So I'm super happy to hear that.
Yeah.
A couple other things we wanted to touch on. I wanted to just get if you were to have one pivotal memory as a child or maybe an adult that you had with retro games.
Yeah.
Can you describe that?
Sure.
So sharing those experiences.
I would say, I mean, there's a ton, but one that I would pick and that I always really, I just love the experience of it all was playing Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, and the game is about, in general, just going through dungeons and collecting these instruments after you beat the boss. And after you beat the boss, you'll pick up the instrument and it'll play a little tune.
Yeah,
and then you're like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get the next thing. It's made like the snare drum, and it's just like, and you're like, okay, that's cool, whatever. But me as a kid, I couldn't put all this stuff together ahead of time. And when you finish all the dungeons and you go to like the final area, all the instruments suddenly come out at once. And that was like the moment where my small little brain exploded, because I was like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And of course, all the instruments play at the same time and make this huge, awesome song. And that's a huge retro memory for me.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the act of having everything kind of mixed together, and almost being like a bow or like a finality to your experience really seemed like it influenced you there.
Yeah, it was, and it also cool. Like that got me a lot into music as well. So video gaming and music, both of those things tied in. It was both my loves before I even knew it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for me, it was when I first got the Nintendo. I had played games on the PC, so I was kind of a PC gamer. I think playing things like Wing Commander and Ghostbusters, but something was really special, and I don't know what it was, but I think I was 6 years old. I was in my grandma's house. She had got me a Nintendo, and she was always really into technology. And so I didn't know what a Nintendo is. I never asked for the Nintendo, but I got it, and it came with the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt that came with, and then the Legend of Zelda.
Ooh, nice.
And I remember hooking that up and playing through Super Mario Brothers, and it just blew me away. It was like nothing I'd played before, and I really remember this moment where my parents were going to go on a walk. They're like, it's Christmas, it's all wintry outside, and it's all cold.
Yeah. And
they all went on a walk, and I was alone playing, Mario Brothers on the Nintendo.
Yeah.
And that was just, no one was bothering me, and I was just completely in the zone. And it was one of those things. It was just, sort of a life-changing moment there. It's where I think I really developed the love for video games.
Nice. I actually have never played all the way through the original Legend of Zelda. So I don't know.
I've never beat Ganon.
Oh yeah. I've gotten through maybe like one area. I just didn't have it as a kid, so I didn't get the chance to repeatedly play it.
You know what?
Get into it.
You know what, Lobos?
What?
You might have the opportunity to at some point.
Oh shit!
I'm not saying for sure, but
it
is a retro game.
I don't think we ever discussed this. How are we on? What kind of age level? Is there a filter? Is there?
Yeah. So I guess the way I was thinking about is I wanted this to be a very uplifting show.
Sure.
And focus on the positives of the game. If this isn't something where we go in and talk about how we hated certain things. It's like this is a moment for everyone to revel in the excitement as a 10-year-old. And so I was definitely thinking of something where it was open to any sort of age there.
Cool. But in terms of like profanity, because I accidentally let the word slip, and I don't know if we're trying to keep this PG or.
I think PG makes sense.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna shut down the whole process here if something drops there. So a couple other things we want to talk about. We've discussed having viewers really engage on the games with us, because this isn't just a thing where Lobos and I talk. I mean, that's part of it, but it's about the community. And one of the things that we've got for the show, you can't see them right now, but they're sitting next to us, is we've got a bunch of Nintendo Powers. And as I was flipping through these Nintendo Powers, I was looking at this back page that had a list of games and names of people that had beaten it. So it'd be like Super Mario Brothers beat by Jimmy and Bob and, and Laura, right? And I was like, man, that would be really kind of cool to have a thing where listeners could send us photos of the ending title screen. And, maybe they put a piece of paper with their username in front of it and they take a picture of it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes a lot of sense for us to do. So,
I love the idea. It really harkens back to the Nintendo Power stuff where, they had so many things that you would send stuff in. I know when my brother and I were kids, we would send it. He would art up envelopes because they would display them if the art was good enough.
Yes, that's true.
And we would send in for tips on games because there was no internet. So
I actually definitely wrote into magazines. Never heard back. Did you ever hear anything back?
We did.
Really?
So I mean, there was a guy. His name was. Oh God, I'll have to look up his name later. But we got repeated back and forth about the game Shadowgate. And we got our tips that way. And actually, I know off topic, but recently my brother actually found that guy on Facebook.
Oh, that's amazing.
No, I don't think they've made contact.
Okay.
He's
just stalking him.
I think that'd be really interesting to be like, hey, like 25 years ago, you gave me tips at Nintendo Power. And he'd be like, why are you talking to me?
It's like, oh, yes, I've been looking for you. I have more tips to give you.
I have a quest.
So I don't have a name for this, but the only thing I have written down is it's the Commander Club, because I feel like that's sort of cheesy and 80s retro.
It sounds that way.
We're going to go with this is the Commander Club for now, and maybe people have better names, but that's what we're going to do right now. So,
nice.
What's the first game we're going to be playing? I don't know if I've talked about that already. But in order for people to go to the end of the game and take a photo, they need to know what game we're going to be talking about first.
You're very right. And it is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yes.
It was my favorite until not long ago. The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past.
That's really awesome. And I think that was a game we both picked. Part of it was this was almost the start of this show. As I was describing my experience earlier, it seemed really appropriate to make this the first game. So, if you want to join the Commanders Club, all you have to do is get to the end of the game, the end credits, and write your name down on a piece of paper and take a photo of your name next to the end credits there.
Which, by the way, you can speed run it with glitches in 5 minutes or less. So,
definitely what we're looking for. Yep.
Depending, actually, I don't think I would be able to tell on the very last, the end screen. So you might be able to get away with it.
You have 3 hearts. That's how we know. Okay, you have to have 4
heart challenge run.
Yeah.
You don't have to pick up any hearts.
So, what you should do is upload your image to Imager and then forward that image to Saturday Morning Gaming Show at gmail.com. So again, you have to send it, you have to upload the image to Imager. Only Imager links will be opened up for the purposes of this. And feel free to add a little note. I think one of the things we'd love to do is at the either beginning or end of each podcast, sort of congratulate people on an individual basis for completing the game. It really kind of depends how many people we have. And then I thought about maybe there's like a leaderboard where we have week after week you can rise up in the ranks or whatever.
Yeah, I like that.
And again, it's completely pointless. There's no reward to it. It's just kind of like a fun thing for that I thought would be really cool for people to have a reason beyond just playing the game to engage with it.
Yeah, flex your gamer cred.
Absolutely. And maybe each game will have a different amount of points, and maybe that'll be based on how long it takes me to complete it. So like, you talk about Final Fantasy VI, maybe that's like 5 points, and then something like Mario 1 might be 1 point, and that's just because it's a time investment.
It's a quick one, yeah.
But, we'll see if it makes sense.
Sure. Sounds good.
Well, that's going to wrap up episode 0 for today. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you for checking us out. We want the community to drive this show as much as we do. So please reach out to us at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com if you have any comments, feedback, or suggestions for the show. For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Lobos.
And I'm Ryan. We'll see you on June 8th for episode 1, A Link to the Past.
Bye.
I'm editing that bit out.
Damn it. Okay.